Hi everyone, welcome to this review for the ES futures. We're using a 500 tick chart and a 21 EMA. So I started trading around 8 Central Time, which is this area right here. This is our overnight high and this is our overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. And overall, we were in this uptrend at the beginning here. It didn't end up holding, but it is worth drawing in the moment in case it does end up holding. And so we have this uptrend, we have this measured move that just got met that led to a very bearish reaction, and of course is what led to today's downtrend. So when price met this measured move and pushed off, obviously that of course gave us our overnight high. So we have our overnight high level, we have our downtrend pushing off of it, and so now we are playing basically the range rules. When price comes off one side of an overnight range, we can expect it to attempt to reach the other side. So when this downtrend gets a break, we got our first attempt at a new low, and then I started trading right around here. What I'm thinking at this moment, at this point, is since we already have the first attempt at a new low, I would like for price to do one of two things. I want it to either start that second attempt down, start that second leg so I can get in on a failed second entry. So something like this kind of. So we have our downtrend break. This is our first attempt at a new low. I would want price to start pushing lower and lower. That way I can get in on a couple legs back and get short and basically catch this second leg down. But that doesn't end up happening. It kind of just goes sideways. So the other thing that could happen is we get a second leg up with this leg. So at this point, the downtrend, like I said, has a break and a first attempt at a new low. So if price makes a first attempt at a new low and then it just keeps rising and then goes past this previous swing, like say it pushes all the way up to the measured move, at that point it's considered a two-legged break. You can now get a bigger picture first attempt at a new low. So just to be clear at what I'm saying here, if you got something like this, push down and then a correction and then a second leg down from there, that's just a simple break with two legs down to a new low, playing it out like normal. Or if you get something like this, where it goes past the previous swing, that is just a larger break, a two-legged break, and you can expect price to attempt a new low on a bigger picture from there. So anyway, price doesn't, it kind of just stays stagnant for a while. It goes sideways into this range. So really offering nothing great. It does make this couple legs down with a good push up, fading this, but there is this trend line to be concerned about, and it's just so bearish because it just pushed off that major measured move level. I would not want to be going longs, basically so quickly. I would really want to see price reverse higher and get out of this overnight range and then start looking to get long. But anyway, price very quickly turns on down, basically makes a double top with this range and then continues lower. And so we get this downtrend. Now, we also get this at first initially. Let me just draw that out. So downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower. It took a couple legs to reach that measured move, but once it reached it, it did make a reversal attempt. It failed and then kind of got sideways before, very sharply breaking out of that overnight low there. So where was I exactly? So yeah, basically we push out of this, we go into this downtrend here, we push out of that range, and then once we break these swings down here, that's when it's like more safe because we're not going to be entering into any support if we do get something on the way down. So now that we've pushed past that point, what I'd like to see is a clear two-legged retest of that level, that double bottom. We only get a clear one-legged retest of it, but so it's just not good enough because that's basically just like a fade at that point. It faded back in with one leg. On a smaller picture, yeah, I can see that there's a tick lower right there, and so to the tick it's first entry short, second entry short. But this is such a bullish push higher. I just see this as one leg. And I would want to see a real clear two-legged retest of that level. So anyway, it doesn't happen. It continues lower. We push on down to a new low. So this downtrend right here is now considered played out. That leads to two attempts to reverse, which again fails, continues lower, going sideways. So there's really just nothing great in this area because there's not a whole lot of room for shorts. And there's definitely nothing long here to take. It just pushed off that, again, major measured move level. It's actively reversing. It just rejected this level again here. I don't want to take any kind of longs here. So anyway, price pushes up here. After those two attempts higher, it fails, gets sideways, and then ultimately drops on out, goes into this channel here. And I do want to point out that this is a measured move down. It's nearly measured. So we have these couple legs down. Within a couple ticks of it, we get this break. Price pushes up. We have these two legs up here, and the reason I liked entering this directly on the measured move, which I think I got that out of place, but the reason I liked entering directly on that was because it was so bearish. We were just in the middle of an active reversal, and right before this happened, it got even more bearish. We had a very sharp spike out of the overnight low, and then these are basically the two attempts to fade. Now, I didn't wait for any confirmation just because, it's so bearish. It's an active reversal, and it's a clear two-legged move. It was just such a great second entry. So I like that, just to write it down to the lows here. Price at that point fully met the measured move. That led to a sharper reversal higher, held at those highs, and then we get this push down. When price pushes down right here, what I'd like to see is a couple legs back, which you can see it kind of makes that here. It just doesn't make it very well. So let me explain this here. This uptrend has a break. We have our first attempt at a new high, second attempt at a new high, and then it fails. So from the top here, that's basically a first entry long, second entry long failure. Now, here's the thing. At this point, the reason I don't like going short here, even though, like I just said, I was previously just very enthusiastic about going short, the reason I'm not so much about going short right here is because we just met that measured move, and that led to a very obvious sharper reversal higher. And so when price has a sharp reversal higher and then it clearly rejects the EMA a couple times, that's telling you that the bulls could be winning out. It does end up dropping on down here, but you just don't know for sure that it's going to go down. So I did avoid going short there. From this new low, price could easily have, this is the measured move that's in play once it starts pushing up from there. And so the chances of even just getting a couple larger picture attempts to make this measured move is too high. It could stop you out. So that's why I don't like that. Price continues lower. As you can see, we get a much more significant push to a new low. It basically acts like this: downtrend, break, first attempt out, excuse me, first attempt at a new low, second attempt at a new low. So it made a double top right there, which makes it pretty borderline. Because if it goes too far, then it can't count as a second attempt. If it's double top, it's really borderline. It could count, it might not count, and in this case here, it definitely reacted like a push to a new low, because once it made that new low, we had a sharp reversal. So this downtrend clearly played out with a break and a new low down to here, pushing us into a strong reversal. Now, we can look to get in some kind of fade after it pushes back up into this range right here. Like if, say, it pushes back in and you get a couple legs back, you can look to get a long. You just need room for any resistance that's in the way, basically. Especially you want room to the channel high, obviously, or the range high, I mean. And so we don't get anything. It just pushes up, overshoots, that breaks, pushes up into a new high. So you can see here, the uptrend gets a break, two clear legs up to a new high, making a to the tick retest of that previous uptrend. Or I shouldn't say previous, it's still active, it's still testing it here. And so it tests that trend here. We get two attempts to reverse. It's kind of right in the middle of all the, this range high right here, and it's just a choppy area, not the cleanest area. So I didn't like any trades in here, but we got another couple attempts up. These two attempts higher is forming the bigger picture second leg up, because these two legs up are one on a bigger picture. So you can see we have an uptrend with a break, first attempt at a new high, successfully made it, and then our second attempt at a new high up here. Now, at first, it doesn't quite reach the measured move. It ends up finding resistance. It's clearly going into this kind of range right here. And then we get this second entry long, so first attempt to reverse, second attempt to reverse, but then it has a clear hold on the range that's forming, and also of this trend line right here. It's a small trade. I didn't mind entering into the EMA just because price had already been up and down through the EMA so much. So I didn't mind entering long into the EMA. It was off of all this support right here. We had this up measured move still in play, and then price continues up. We reach the measured move, retest the channel one more time, and then we get a reversal down. So, or at this point, I shouldn't say a reversal down, I should say we continue down at that point from this temporary bullish reversal. But anyway, we continue lower here. As soon as we break out of this range right here, I like to see a two-legged retest of it. So push down, two legs back, retesting it, for a short. So something like this, basically. And the reason that I like that is because that would be a downtrend with a two-legged break. We could still expect the new low for that downtrend, and then it would also be, of course, a second entry retest of that level. We don't get that, as you can see. It ends up just, it makes a couple corrections here, but it makes a first entry, new low, and then another first entry, and then it takes off. So really just nothing to get in on there. And you can see that there's even a smaller channel within here. So downtrend here, break, and then two legs to a new low, just like that, measured before reversing higher very bullishly. So considering we just retested a major uptrend, we had a very bearish reaction to it, and it's been very bearish all day so far. There's no way that I would enter long on anything around here, but it does end up having a very bullish reaction. We test this level here. You can see we have this trend line forming from these two first swings. We get a push off of that, so we go into a downtrend from there, and then we get this two-legged break, which I'm going to break it down even further just because I know it can look confusing, because there's so much stuff going on here. Some people might not be able to see the two legs. So initially, when price pushes off this level here, we get our first leg down, break, and then second leg down. The second leg just keeps on continuing down. It's pretty clear overall that these are two thin legs. They both neatly fit into this channel here. And so, they are what form the channel in the first place. But anyway, so the downtrend here, we get a break, and then we have our first attempt at a new low, which fails, goes straight up. So at that point, it's basically a two-legged break. So downtrend, two-legged break. We have our first attempt at a new low, and then it's very small. You can't really see it, but price, after that first attempt down to the low of this bar, price corrects up to the high of this bar, and then makes the second attempt at a new low down to the low of here, and then it fails and reverses higher. So you can still see what price is doing within the bars. The wicks and bodies, you got to understand how they work to see the very, very small picture stuff. But that's what happens here. Again, downtrend, two-legged break. We have our first attempt at a new low down to here. We correct up to the high of this bar, and then we get our second attempt at a new low all the way down to here, and then that fails, shooting up, leaving all these green bars to the key entry point again. And so that, of course, gives us our measured move higher. This is our larger picture measured move. We got a great we got a great bearish reaction to that. We closed back below this trend line. I didn't mind entering into the EMA. It was already chopping straight, up and down through it anyway. So anyway, we had room to this level right here, which is why I like this right here. If we didn't have room, then I wouldn't be taking it. But yeah, it was kind of just going into a wedge. You can see we have this uptrend line going here, and then we also have the wider downtrend line. So when that's happening, you can still look to, I just like to go with whatever is the most prevalent trend. So in this case here, that's the downtrend. And if we get a good reaction, then we can look to get in on that. We just got to make sure we have room. So anyway, price continues lower here. It breaks through this trend line, ends up getting a lot closer down to this measured move here. So you can see very sharp spike down. This downtrend from the retest has a break. This is the first attempt at a new low, and then this is the second attempt at a new low. That's another thing I forgot to mention. This entry is the second attempt at a new low for this downtrend break. So anyway, I'm just gonna, what did I just do? Oh, I just went to one of my other charts. This is the NQ. I didn't trade the NQ today. That's why it's blank. I accidentally clicked off to that. So I kind of forgot what I was doing here. So we have this downtrend break, first attempt at a new low, couple legs back, second attempt. That, of course, leads to this overall bigger picture two-legged move down. So even though there's a couple legs within here, this is all still one leg on a bigger picture. If you ever get confused with legs and, like, does this count as a two-legged move even though there's more smaller legs within it, you really just got to go by the measured moves. Like, this is a downtrend. I don't care about the channel and then the break and then the couple legs to a new low. I can just look and see that this is one move, and so I'll draw an arrow for it, and then that's the downtrend. So downtrend, break, first attempt lower, and then second attempt lower. And then, of course, we go off into this range. It gets very choppy. I didn't take anything in here. And then finally, we met the measured move here. 2 attempts to reverse, fails, retests it one more time, and then it really takes off from there. That, of course, is the break of this downtrend. So this downtrend now has a clear break. When a downtrend gets a break, we can expect prices to attempt a new low. It immediately starts that new low attempt, basically just nearly tests that measured move level within a tick or so before making this correction higher. And there's really nothing on the way down. There's no clear failed second entry. It just takes on down. We push off that measured move level, correct up, and then we get our second leg down. Again, nothing on the way down, just really nothing clear. There's no failed second entries. And anyway, price continues lower. It goes through this level that was, very clear support, and then we reach this measured move right here. Price retests it, continues lower, and then it doesn't go very far. It doesn't go very far, and there's really nothing that sets up within it, but we push on lower, then we get a very strong reversal. So the importance of this right here is this downtrend is now played out. So when a downtrend gets a break and a push to a new low, it's considered played out, and a reversal is likely. That doesn't immediately mean buy, and you just got to wait and see. You just got to wait for price to give you something. So when price starts pushing up here, the downtrend's already played out. So if you get a clear reversal pattern, a clear failed second entry that's holding above the EMA, then you can look to go long. Now, it's important to understand that just because the downtrend has played out doesn't mean that it won't go right back into play. So it's still overall very bearish at this point. So you still want to make sure it's a good setup above the EMA. You're not just taking any reversal pattern. So anyway, price continues up, no reversal pattern. It ends up going way past this level here. Now, one thing that would be good to see is once it breaks past this level is a couple legs back, retesting it for a long, because if you're actively reversing higher and you have a previous support level, the best version of a failed second entry to set up is one that sets up with 2 legs retesting that support level. And as you can see, it doesn't really happen. It just pushes right back down. We get a retest here, a couple small attempts, but then we ultimately just push back down. So you can see what price is doing. We have a downtrend, we get a break, we have a couple legs down to a new low, first leg to a new low, second leg to a new low, and then reversal. That reversal, of course, gives us our second leg up. Doesn't get very far, it doesn't get past that swing, it just starts pushing on down, making another lower high. And so, when a downtrend gets a break to a new low, it's always good to extend it and see how price reacts to it. And so, price is still basically fitting right along with this downtrend. I mean, it's, still retesting it, still making these lower highs. I really want to see a much clearer reversal before going long. So anyway, where exactly was I? Sorry, I keep losing where I am. So we have that first attempt down here. So downtrend, again, very small break, new low leads to the reversal. So now we have this uptrend, break down to here. This is our first attempt up to a new high, and this is our second attempt up to a new high, and we get a failure. So one thing that I want to go over here is these new low attempts. So we have this downtrend, we have a break, first attempt at a new low, and then second attempt at a new low. Now we have to look at it on the inverse as well. So this downtrend has played out, or it hasn't quite played out. It didn't make the new low, but it has 2 attempts at a new low, which means it doesn't necessarily need to play out. It can make a failure just from the 2 attempts. And so at this point, we want to just, whenever you have a trend and you're looking to get in on a failure, a new low failure, say in the case of this downtrend, you have to look at the previous uptrend and see how that fits with your overall trade. Like, you want to see if it has confluence. And this is what I mean by that. This uptrend has a break. This is the first attempt at a new high, and then the second attempt at a new high. Now, generally, what you want to do is, if you're entering long on a new low failure, you want to be entering at the same time as the second attempt at a new high for the previous uptrend. And so, in this case here, that would be right here, because this uptrend has a break, first attempt higher, and then the entry for the second attempt higher is right here. But the downtrend has a break and only one clear leg to a new low at that point, making it not ideal. Now, let's just say that we had gotten 2 smaller legs, still clearly distinct from each other, way bigger than those two legs right here within this one move. But say we get two larger legs that actually fit down to this measured move level all within the one move, and they don't touch it after the first leg, then we would actually be able to take a long right here. We'd be much more likely to get a better entry because it would have confluence with this uptrend and with this downtrend. So again, just to explain this area, because I don't want to confuse anyone. When this uptrend has a breakdown to here, and then we got our first attempt higher, this is the entry for our second attempt higher as soon as it has any bullish reaction there, but it doesn't fit with this downtrend break and then first attempt at a new low, because you only have one clear leg to a new low. You want to see two clear legs in order to enter with confluence. So anyway, we get that second leg down, price spikes back up above the EMA. It's forming a failed second entry right now. You can see here we have an uptrend, two-legged break. We can expect prices to attempt a new high, and that's of course, basically what a failed second entry is. And so yeah, anyway, we have these very clear lower highs, so I'm not going to actually enter on a failed second entry to go long right here. But if we can just push up and get a couple legs back, just retesting on, say, this level right here, that can offer us a great long. Because really what we need for a long is for price to just fully reverse out of this area here. The initial downtrend like that clearly played out, but as soon as it turned down right here and then turned down again, making two lower highs, that's telling you that the downtrend is overall winning out, and that you want to stay bearish, you want to keep looking for shorts. And yeah, ultimately I kind of just want to see price. I'm not going to be trading for much longer, but what I'd like to see is price push on down from here, make a couple legs back, retest this measured move level, or overall just retest this double bottom right here, that general area. And then if we get a great bearish reaction, we can look to get short and continue with the overall downtrend. I extended this level to here, as you saw, and it's still reacting to it. So it's still an in-play valid trend. It has a break, it has a couple big pick attempts at a new low, but it still could easily drop on down and continue this bearish momentum. Now, if it does continue higher, then of course, like I said, we'll just want to catch a retest of one of these previous swings in order to get in on this second leg up. And yeah, so anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you watching and tuning in. And yeah, I'll see y'all tomorrow.